Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill feeling toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. The essential points which we discussed in our last class. Sri Ramakrishna was a most fit adhikari, fit person, endowed with all the fourfold qualities called sadhana chatustaya sampatti: viveka, vairagya, samadhi shatka sampatti and mumukshutva. Discrimination, dispassion, body and mind control, and intense yearning for God realization. How do we know? Because when a person becomes endowed, the guru somehow comes automatically. This was in fulfillment of what Swami Dayatmananda stated: when the field is ready, the seed must come. Sri Ramakrishna was a supremely endowed, fit person, endowed with these fourfold qualifications. During this exposition of these four qualities, we have discussed a very important point. What was that? How do these fourfold qualities manifest in our day-to-day life in the form of relationships? So, if we are worldly people, the types of relationships which we have with the world, and if we are spiritual aspirants, the type of relationships which we have with the world, will they be same or will they be totally different? Why did we discuss it? Because Sri Ramakrishna was going to be a great saint. Whether he was an incarnation or not, we will talk later on. But he was a supreme spiritual sadhaka before he even went to Dakshineshwar. I can as well insert one statement here. Because he was ready, the field was ready. Because the field was ready, the seed was ready. So what was the field? Sri Ramakrishna's life. What was the seed? The construction of the temple of Dakshineshwar, and slowly the coming out of all his gurus. Everything was being prepared. In that connection, we discussed very elaborately first the Ras Leela of Sri Krishna, understood in the light of Sri Ramakrishna's Rasa Leela. What is Rasa Leela? It is the divine play between God and his devotees. That is called Rasa Leela. And then in that context we discussed 5 types of relationships: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Mathura. I also mentioned Sri Ramakrishna practiced all these 5 types of spiritual relationships during his stay at Kamarpukur. Before coming to Dakshineshwar, became perfect. In that context also we discussed an important point. Not only Sri Ramakrishna, even in our own life, we also have exactly the same type of 5 types of relationships. Now, what is the point here? We are not just worldly people, we want to be spiritual aspirants. Therefore, we have to change the way we relate ourselves in these 5 ways with everybody that we come into contact with. One of the important points I highlighted was Sri Ramakrishna loved everybody, but there are certain specialities in Sri Ramakrishna's love as a spiritual aspirant. What was that? He was not subject to either raga or dvesha. Understand? Raga means attachment, dvesha means aversion. He loved because he loved in a spiritual way. Spiritual way of loving as just the opposite of worldly way of life. Worldly way of life is completely of raga and dvesha. His was pure love because he relates everything to God. We can maintain all these relationships and become spiritual provided one condition need to be fulfilled. What is that? We have to relate all these people, the whole world, with God. That's why Swami Dayatmananda Maharaj, he used to give a most important teaching. He said, never love Sri Ramakrishna through other people, but love everybody through Sri Ramakrishna. You see the point? Here we are, here is the world, and here is Sri Ramakrishna. My father was worshipping Sri Ramakrishna. My guru was worshipping Sri Ramakrishna. Even that has to be transcended. But now you approach and say, he is my guru because he worships Sri Ramakrishna. He is my father because he is a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Supposing there is a worldly person, what will you do? Worldly person means not interested in spiritual life but related to us. We have to relate ourselves. Even then we have to say, what can they do? Sri Ramakrishna made them what they are. Like he said about Hajra, what can Hajra do? This is what Divine Mother is making him do. We have to love everyone through Sri Ramakrishna. Then there would be no attachment, means there would be no bondage. But if we approach Sri Ramakrishna or God or anybody through the other relationships, not only we will not progress, we are bringing Sri Ramakrishna to our level. In other words, simple words, to paraphrase it, if we put on worldly specs, then Sri Ramakrishna would appear as the world. If we put spiritual spectacles, even the world also appears as divine. That's what we need to do. That is what in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Divyam dadamite chakshu pashyame yogam, I will give you spiritual vision. Arjuna was seeing the same people in a worldly light. By the grace of Sri Krishna, now he started seeing Sri Krishna, him. Very interesting question here. He was seeing Bhishma, Drona, everybody as what? In a divine light. How was he looking at himself with that vision, with that spiritual vision? When Arjuna was looking at himself, how do you think he would appear to himself? As divine, related to Sri Krishna. This is very important because whether Sri Ramakrishna attained God or not, he attained God because of these qualities. We want to progress in spiritual life. Therefore, what is the conclusion? We also must spiritualize our relationships. What is life? Nothing but a network of relationships. Father, mother, sister, brother, devotees, and office colleagues, everybody, including enemies. Can you have spiritual relationships with people? Can you have enemies? Can a spiritual aspirant have enemies? No. But it doesn't mean that you will not avoid certain people. You can avoid, you must avoid some people. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, all water is Narayana, but some water you should not even touch. It is like that. So this is what we said. During that topic, we also said, talking about Madhura Bhava, we discussed. First point we have to understand, Madhura Bhava is not a sexual relationship that exists between two human beings. What is Madhura Bhava? It is a divine relationship taking the form of the lover and the beloved. It is a relationship of lover and beloved. It only shows the intensity. I do not remember whether I expressed that idea. Very important idea is, how many relationships are there? 5. So through any one of those relationships, one can realize God. That is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, there is an hierarchy. If you stack it horizontally, it is like, any path will take us to the same goal. Because of what is the reason? Because of our peculiar mental constitution. But there is another way of looking at it. What is that way? It is stacking these 5 relationships vertical. Means what? Intensity of devotion to God in Shanta Bhava is the lowest degree. Dasya Bhava is the more intense. You understand? A servant is nearer to God. A friend is even nearer to God. And the parents are even nearer to God. But the relationship that exists between a lover and beloved is the most intense. This is what Sri Ramakrishna, he is trying to explain while explaining Vaishnava tenets. Say, even a legally wedded wife, she is under restrictions. It is there in the Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga. But the mistress, she will catch hold of his ears and says, you rogue, I have renounced my all, my honor, my name and fame. For your sake, now you want to get rid of. That intensity is what is represented by the relationship between Radha and Krishna. Though people degenerated it, that's not the point. This is one way of looking at it. In that context, one idea I would like to discuss very briefly today is, can one have Madhura Bhava even today? If so, with whom? You know, Bhagavan Krishna, all the gopis have got that sweet relationship, conjugal relationship. But these are words, worldly words. The moment you hear conjugal, you only remember what happens between husband and wife. This is, we are talking about spiritual conjugal relationship. In that context, what we have to, are there people today who can adopt that relationship with God? Can there be in future? You have to be clear about it. Was it only the gopis who were in Bhagavata time, Sri Krishna's time, who were having relationship? Or is it possible that it is an ideal path for some people or not? First, one point I want to clear. Suppose there are some, especially women, or men or women. For men, this is the point, very interesting point. Sri Ramakrishna practiced Madhura Bhava. Why did he do that? First, he wanted to prove that the relationship that existed between Gopi and Sri Krishna is a very valid path to realize God. That means, why did he want to prove? Because he want to revive. Not for everybody, but some women. It is possible. For men also it is possible, like Sri Ramakrishna, but for women especially it is very easy. The first point I wanted to clear is, can a woman forge this type of relationship with Sri Rama, Sri Ramakrishna, Jesus Christ, Buddha? Not possible. Why? Because they did not manifest that relationship. It is possible only with whom? With Bhagavan Krishna. Even now it is possible. For which type of woman this kind of relationship is more suited is a second point. Because that thought came to me recently after last class. What is it, you know? There are women, for some reason or other, they can't get married, but they have bodily desires, normal bodily desires. Whatever be the reason, they cannot fulfill those desires. They have two choices. They can mentally imagine themselves having this kind of relationships with other men. But if they happen to be a little bit spiritual devotees, they can have the second type of relationship. With whom? With Bhagavan Krishna. And I will also point out, Gopal Irma, she had this relationship of Vatsalya Bhava. Why did she have that? Especially, why was it suited for her? One simple reason. She was married, she became widowed. Second, there is no question, there was no choice of her ever getting a child, because there would be marriages out of question. But she was a spiritual person. What did she do now? She sublimated her desire for a child and she got a divine child. Gopala was her child. And through that path also she progressed. And another incident, if you remember, there was one Brahmo devotee, woman devotee, and who was bringing up her nephew, if you understand. She also had the visions of Sri Krishna by just changing the mental attitude. Now coming back to our point, now also, in future also, if there are some women and who have these, what is called the thoughts of relationship between man and woman, sexual relationships, sexual desires, But they know that that is not their path for whatever reason, physical, mental, whatever reason. And they also happen to be devotees. They can adopt this Madhura Bhava, but only towards Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Here comes a question, because Ramakrishna's life was so pure. Most of other people's minds may not be so pure. If they forge this kind of relationship with Sri Krishna as Bhagavan, will it degrade them or will it uplift them? Will it degrade them or will it uplift them? The whole point is, why did Sri Ramakrishna practice? To revivify that bhava. There is no question of degrading it, provided they direct it towards God. This is one of the most important points Bhagavatam wants to convey it. You have any type of relationships with God, provided all your feelings, whether they are positive feelings, negative feelings, but turned towards God, because the object is God, the object will purify you. I will give an illustration. If the subject is a little bit tough, Hari Maharaj came to Sri Ramakrishna, as you know, those who know. What was his question to Sri Ramakrishna? How can I conquer lust? What was his reply? He said, in a funny way, why do you want to conquer lust? Increase it 1,000-fold, but direct it towards God. It took even him some time to understand what Sri Ramakrishna means, because the object, I will just explain the psychology of it. You by this time you should be familiar with what I am going to talk.
So when we think of Madhura Bhava, we think not just of Krishna but also of Radha.
Yeah,
so men is equally applicable to men but direct to Radha.
It is applicable, but Swami Sharadanandji makes a remark. For a person who thinks he is a male body, it is very difficult to have this kind of relationship with God. When Sri Ramakrishna practiced Madhura Bhava, what was his idea about himself? I am not a man, I am a woman. That is the main point. So any man who in future, if he can shift that male identity to female identity, then only it is possible, not otherwise. But here is a psychology. In our day-to-day relationships with anything, the object modifies our mind. If you are thinking of a dog, intense love towards your dog, what will you become? Yad bhavana tad bhavati. Yes. As you eat, so you become. As you think, you become. This is the one. But here what is the object of our thinking? God. Therefore, even ordinary worldly thoughts very soon will become spiritualized. In fact, this is what we are trying to do in other ways. Here is food. What is the effect of food upon us? To pull our mind down to the worldly level, body level, isn't it? You offer it to God, now it is no more food. What is it? How did it become prasada? You associated that food with God. What is the point we are discussing now? The object, the psychology is the object heavily influences us. That's why God is not a worldly object. God is a spiritual object. Therefore, if whatever be our feelings, our thoughts, our desires, if they are somehow associated with God, then we become divine in our turn. So here is again the same extension of the same psychology. When we look upon this food as prasada, who is looking upon that food as prasada? Suppose a worldly person comes, he looks at that food. What would be his opinion? It is just food. A dog comes and looks at it. What do you think it will be? Food only. Only in my eyes it is prasada. That means that object I associated with God, therefore that object made me also think in a spiritual way. There was that beautiful incident. Holy Mother was sitting for worship. There was some food to be offered. Then Maku's son started, you remember the incident? His eyes, that is an object lesson in concentration. No deviation here and there. Straight he was moving. Mother was telling, Baba, wait a little, after puja, I will give it to you only. But who will understand? A child will understand. Do we understand? She changed her tune. What did she say now? My Gopala, please come and eat. She changed. If the whole food is meant for whom? For Gopala. So now, if Gopala eats, that is as good as Ramakrishna is eating. Changed the whole lot. Now do you understand? Whenever we offer food, at least here I am very generous, I offer in front of you. But in Belur Math, when they offer to Sri Ramakrishna, what do? They close the doors tightly. You can only be swallowing and waiting what type of food is offered to Sri Ramakrishna. Because the temptation is so strong. Anyway, what is the point here? The goal, if it is a spiritual object, then it will transform us. Whatever be our thoughts. If the object of our meditation is worldly, then even spiritual things become worldly things. That is I won't go today into this. Puranas have got plenty of these stories. But I will give a hint in case you might have read somewhere or you might read in future, either in this life or in next life. There was one demon, Asura. Demon means what? Not with all this werewolf teeth and all those things. So this fellow did tapasya and God became, it was necessary for God to grant him a boon. Then he asks for something impossible. Then God Shiva gives him. Shiva, I think, I forget exactly, but I think Shiva gives him, but warns him. The moment you look upon, you desire Divine Mother as your wife, you will lose all these powers. And a day came, he was a great Shiva Bhakta, and he came to have Shiva Darshana, and Shiva and Parvati both were there. Gauri, Mother, Divine Mother has many forms. If it was Kali, he would have run away. It was Gauri. Immediately he wanted, I want this woman as my wife. God had predicted long back. Immediately he lost all his powers and then his destruction came. This is a story. And your Chandi, Shumbha, Nishumbha, Vada. How did the Divine Mother go to these two demons? You know that story? She appeared as the most Miss Universe. And then some servants of Shumbha and Nishumbha saw it, and immediately they ran and said, Stri Ratnam Ati Charvangi, most beautiful woman, you have all the best things after conquering Indra, Chandra, Varuna, you collected all these antiques. Sorry, I should not use that word, antiques. The chariot and the horses and the elephant and all those things. Stri Ratna Bhutam. This Stri, she is like a jewel among all women. That is called Miss Universe. The fall of these demons came because of that. Just funny extension of this story. Supposing they had not seen this woman, would they still be there or not? According to Chandi's story, supposing Divine Mother had not assumed that beautiful form and went to tempt them. Deliberately she went to tempt them because that is one of the easiest ways of getting them destroyed. Supposing she had not gone, probably they would still be here, one in USA and one in UK. I don't know. What I wanted to tell is, first of all, why Sri Ramakrishna practiced this sweet relationship. Even today, that bhava is appropriate path for some people to progress in spiritual life, especially women. What type of women? Devotees who have not yet gone beyond the bodily desires. Still they are cherishing, imagining, though they will not fulfill them in the normal way, still that desire is there. But if they can direct them towards God. What is this process called? Sublimation. What is sublimation? Even worldly desires, when they are associated with God, they become sublimated, means they become spiritual desires. That is called sublimation. Then they will progress. Even now it is possible. Before we start, what is the next point? That every sadhaka must have a relationship with his body, mind, with his house, with his friends, etc. including God, Guru, Scripture. Very briefly, let me discuss about it. If we want to progress in spiritual life, and what is spiritual life? Forging a special type of relationship with the world. And presumably, the world means it includes God, Guru, other devotees. But most importantly, it also means our body, our mind, and our house. It means our present circumstances as well as the outer world. Very important. All these relationships can be divided into three parts. One is my body and mind, second is the world, and the third is Guru, God, and other devotees. So what type of relationships we must forge? Can there be a dichotomy between these three types of relationships? Is it possible? I can have worldly relationship with the world, but I will have spiritual relationship with God, Guru, etc. Is it possible? Because that what is relationship? It is a mental attitude. We must this is called spiritualizing everyday life, spiritualizing the world. Do not think, here a great misapprehension could come. Do not think you are spiritualizing the world which is not spiritual. It is already nothing but God. The whole universe, my body, mind, everything is nothing but God. But because of my ignorance, I am making a division. God is different, world is different, my body, mind are different. Now we are only asked to see the truth, reality as it is, not as we are at present looking at it. This is called spiritualizing. As you remember, Swami Vivekananda, he gave a wonderful talk at how we have to think everything is God. You remember, one lady got up and asked, Swami, are you advising us to hypnotize ourselves to thinking that everything is God? He said, no, madam, I am asking you to de-hypnotize yourself that this is not God. Now we are in that state. We belong to all that community. Swamiji used to say we belong to that which community? Virochana's Santati. Prajapati instructed Indra and Virochana. We all belong to the Virochana's lineage. What is Virochana's lineage? Worshipping the body and mind. And who is a demon? He who looks upon his own body, mind as reality, he is called a demon. That is what in the Ishavasya Upanishad. This is related with Ishavasya Upanishad. The very first mantra, Ishavasya Midagum Sarvam. You look upon this whole world as Brahman, as Atman, and live your life. Spiritualizing everyday life means what? Look everything in a spiritual light. So we have to do that. Okay. We had long discussions upon this. Now I want to complete this last phase of Sri Ramakrishna's life at Kamarpukur. I already told you Sri Ramakrishna loved all, and he had wonderful experiences, divine visions, wonderful relationships with everybody. And the thing is, most of them loved Sri Ramakrishna very greatly because of his purity, because of his great spiritual power. You can hoodwink one person, you can hoodwink 10 persons, you can't hoodwink everybody. Everyone in the village loved him. Is it because of their merit or because of his greatness? He forcibly, by his power, made everyone more or less spiritual. I have already quoted a few instances how the Srinivasa, the Bengal man, had worshipped Sri Ramakrishna. Now I want to quote Swami Shardanandaji went to Kamarpukur and met one of the old ladies who had the good fortune of playing with Sri Ramakrishna as a young girl. Her reminiscences here. She was called Rukmini. Sri Ramakrishna paid a visit to Kamarpukur, and Rukmini, one of Sitanath's daughters, then 60 years old, gave the following interesting account of their association with Gadadhar. This is her reminiscences. You see our house there, a little to the north. It is now in a dilapidated state, and very few members of our family survive. I was then 17 or 18 years of age. Ours was a thriving family. Sitanath Pine was my father, and we were altogether 17 or 18 sisters and cousins, all of about the same age. Gadadhar used to play with us from his very boyhood. We were therefore in terms of close intimacy with him. Even after we had married and come of age, he used to visit our house, and though he had grown up, he had free access to our inner apartments. My father loved him dearly and adored him like his own Ishta. This is very important. You have so many girls at home, complained some neighbors to my father, and Gadadhar is not young. Why do you allow him to visit your family so frequently? Don't you worry, my father would reply. I know Gadadhar too well to think ill of him. Rukmini continues, Gadadhar used to recite stories for us from the Puranas as we went about our daily household duties. How can I describe the bliss that we enjoyed in his company? If perchance he missed a day, we became extremely restless, thinking that he might be ill. One of us would go to Chandra Devi's on some pretext or other, whilst the others waited at home for news. His every word was a delight to our ears. The days he was unable to be with us, we spent in talking of him. This was brief description. She might have told many things, but this was what Swami Sharadanaji quotes here. What is important here, very important, is she could not forget what happened. Now, how many of you remember, what happened when we were, that young? Do we remember? But what deep impression must have been made on these people's minds. First of all, that impression great people can make in a worldly way. But here we are not talking about worldly way. On another context, after hearing Kadai singing, we don't have ears to hear anybody else. Were they appreciating only music, or were their feelings were aroused to the fullest extent? Now, in this context also, very important, I will give you two examples just to make this point clear. Supposing one day you have eaten something extremely tasty, or you felt it is very tasty. Will you remember it whole life or not? Why? Because in that particular department of taste, you had the highest experience of bliss in the form of taste. That's why you still remember and say, you might have eaten the same name dish whole life, but you will always remember it. Okay. The other example is when supposing you one day heard a beautiful devotional song, and it made you feel so much of feeling, and happiness comes, you will never forget the whole life. What is the idea now? You are feeling fully aroused, emotion fully aroused. That's why you can't forget. If this is our normal experience, when Sri Ramakrishna used to sing, what would have happened in the minds of the people who heard his songs? 2 points you have to find out here. First of all, when he was singing, he was full of that feeling or not? He was absorbed 100%. Not only that, he would also have the same effect upon other people also. That means, if they are hearing a song on Sri Krishna, which idea would be dominating their minds? Sri Krishna. And they must have got tremendous joy that day, because that song was the instrument through which they could really have the feeling about devotion about Sri Krishna. So that is what he is telling. These are all spiritual feelings he used to infuse, not only to this woman, is only as an example, with all men, excepting, as I said, a few people who were hypocrites, and Gadai used to tell them, you are a hypocrite, you are doing this. He used to do it in two ways. First, he used to tell them directly. Secondly, after they go away, he would sit there and imitate what they did, and the whole village would be having the greatest comedy show on earth, both comedy show as well as spiritual show. Both shows, he is capable of what is called multi-phasic personality. This is most important. And the life of Sri Ramakrishna mentions very wonderful thing. 2 points he says. It was about this time that the idea seems to have come to him that he was destined to fulfill some great mission in life. He did not know what, though the realization of God was to him even then the only purpose worthy of consideration. Second, the monastic life had a strong attraction for him. Much as he would have liked to have taken up the begging vow and renounced everything for the Lord's sake, the thought of the plight of his mother and brothers made him forego his desire. In the struggle between the two ideas, he was powerless to decide and could do nothing but resign himself to the guidance of Raghuveer, fully believing that he would show the way out when the time came. 2 points. He had a strong feeling that he had a great mission in his life. What that mission was, how it is going to take place, manifest, he was not clear about it at that point. In fact, he became clear only after he completed his sadhana, according to the great master. What is the second point? He had a strong inclination to monastic life. But still he married. Why did he marry? This is what is called. It should be the subject of our future talks. But now we are just discussing the point. Why did he marry? So this was a point. Again the great master raises Swami Dayatmananda some type. And then he says, supposing Sri Ramakrishna had not married, he was a sannyasi from the beginning to the end. And then he would have been telling to householders that you live a strict life of brahmacharya after the birth of one or two children. What would have been their rejoinder? Sir, you don't know that you are now married, and every monk will be telling the same thing for two reasons. One reason is he has nothing else to tell, and the second reason is he wants as many disciples, devotees as possible. Why did Sri Ramakrishna marry? Just to show that I am also married, I lived this life, and also he used to show Nag Mahashaya's life. That's why he didn't allow Nag Mahashaya to take sannyasa. Even though Sri Ramakrishna knew he was the supremely fit candidate for monastic life. Just because he wanted to show him not only me, there are also others who could lead the same kind of life. But we are discussing one aspect of why he married. The second aspect of this marriage relationship also is very important. Okay, sir, you married, but she was only a small girl. But before she became fit to be partner as a householder, you already have taken sannyasa. Because he took sannyasa. He told Totapuri that I am already married. Then you see, long after Totapuri had gone away, he remembered. What did he remember? Totapuri, when he made this statement to Totapuri, I am married, then Totapuri made a rejoinder that what does it matter for a Brahmagnani? There is nobody who will be considered as a woman, as a wife. It is only the idea of body. This is I am a husband, this is a wife. Sri Ramakrishna took that as a point of testing himself and said, did I really achieve Brahmagnana? And that was one of the reasons why he not only when Holy Mother came, he did not reject her. He encouraged her to sleep in his own bed. And those who have read the great master, do they remember? Not only that, he also tested, oh mind, why do you, this is your wife, if you want you can enjoy, but do not be a hypocrite. Now people cannot charge him, you don't know what is called temptation. Holy Mother was young, and after this only he worships her as the Shodasi. And he said she was not only young, she was beautiful, and he was in bloom, youthful bloom, she was also in youthful bloom, and they were staying together, and then there was no thought of this normal relationship. Then one day forcefully he said he wanted to touch, you touch, this is your wife. But the mind flew into samadhi. This is to be an ideal. That's why he did not expect every householder to be doing like that, to live the life of a complete continence. What he expected is, you fulfill your desire because you have a desire. Your wife also will have two desires. Every wife will have two desires usually. First, to fulfill her bodily desire. What is the second desire? To be called a mother. That's why Sri Ramakrishna specifically says every husband is duty bound if his wife desires to fulfill some of her desires and to give her one or two children, after that he is not duty bound. And he said, for devotees, if both of them happen to be devotees, that is the condition. If one of them happen to be condition, you give her one or two children, after that you will have to live pure life. But if both of them are devotees, then both of them must live like brother and sister. Otherwise, they cannot progress in spiritual life. You see the point? If you want to be spiritual, you have to slowly get rid of this idea, I am the body mind. That is the whole ideal we have to have. With this, that phase of Sri Ramakrishna's life, first phase, as I said, living at Kamarpukur, came to an end. Then what happened? Meanwhile, certain things were taking place. The first thing was, after the death of Ram Kumar, suddenly the income which was more than sufficient for the family, suddenly it became less. Out of necessity, he was forced to go to Calcutta, and he decided to go to Calcutta, and then he started a toll. Toll means what? Not any school is not a toll. Sanskrit will be taught. So Ram Kumar was proficient in two. He knew Sanskrit, some Sanskrit. He was not a great Pandit, but sufficient to teach. And second, he knew astrology very well. So he was teaching to other probably Brahmins, children, both with Sanskrit and also astrology. That's a subject we will take up in future sometime. First he went there, he started the toll, then that toll was not attracting many students. That's why he started taking up some priestly duties. And then he found out two things. First thing was, he was not able to cope with both. Second, he was worried now what is happening after father's death to Sri Ramakrishna. Then next he came, he inquired, he found out, previously at least he was pretending to go to school, now that also he gave up. Now happily he was going to the Manik Raja's mango grove and doing all his dramas and other things, singing and all this. That was his job. You know what is called job satisfaction. Yes, he loved that. No need to force him. And then his teacher found out they were absent. He came to know that what they were doing. So one day he asked, were you doing it? And Gadadhar said, yes, we are doing that one. No untruth. Then the teacher asked, let me hear what you sing. And when Gadadhar sang, he was charmed. He could not say anything because he really understood that only such talents come in a natural way. Next time Ram Kumar, consulting with Rameshwar and his mother, brought Sri Ramakrishna to Kolkata, in Jampur, in Kolkata. Now that place where they were staying, it is found out, it has become one of the branch centers of the private branch centers of the Ramakrishna. Very soon it's going to be this one. Now, as soon as he came, Ram Kumar did not impose of studies. His main purpose was to make him learn something so that he will also earn money. That's a very important topic. We'll come later on. Though he told, you already know, you have got sacred thread, you can do puja. The wonder of wonders is, this became a second Kamarpukur. Jampur has become what? Second Kamarpukur. The moment he started doing puja, all the families were just as though the replica of Kamarpukur. They loved him because first thing they observed was, he was extraordinarily pure boy. They could understand. Second thing they observed was, when he was doing puja, he used to be totally dedicated to it, not unlike other priests who used to come and do it for the sake of. So the chanting of the mantras would be longer. How long? Depending upon the fees they get. Yeah, the feedback depends upon what? Fees. But he was a lover of God, so he loved what he was doing and they understood it. And they used to be eager to see him, keep him as much as possible with them, and give him the best sweets and everything. Wherever he went, people loved him, he loved them, he was getting the best of things. And Ram Kumar observed for a few months what was happening there. Now, last point, today's class. A great preparation is going on for Sri Ramakrishna's advent. Like Swami Vivekananda, before going to the Parliament of Religions, what did he say? That was being prepared for this. The Parliament of Religions was going to be for this. Next point, what we have to understand, very important. In our lives also, nothing happens accidentally. Everything is prarabdha. Whatever happens in our life, it is already one scene after another, the drama which has been written, that this is how this person's life will go from scene 1 to scene 2. That Bengali song, Hoito Jabo Poro Anke Putra Hoye Emaya Propanchamaya. Sunichile? There is a song, Dhananjay Bhattacharya sings, Emaya Propanchamaya, Emaya. Then he says, Hoito Jabo, maybe I will go, Poro Anke, into the lap of some other woman, Poro Anke, in the next scene, means the next life. This life, I was in the lap of this woman. But next life, next scene, I will be in the lap of other. The whole of life, according to Hindu philosophy, is one single drama. And every life we have from the beginning to the end is one scene. And by the time the drama is over, God is tired, we are tired, Jiva is liberated, drama is over, finished. Yes, that is what happens, scene after scene. So what I wanted to tell, it's not only in Sri Ramakrishna's life or Holy Mother's life or Swamiji's life or direct disciples' life or any saint's life. In each one of our life also, whatever happens is nothing ad hoc. It doesn't happen, ad hoc means unintentional. It is all prepared, and because we do not know that this is going to happen, it looks as though it is something new, unintended, and etc. No. And in regard to this also, what we have to understand, there are some people who have a glimpse of what is going to happen in their lives. Sometimes very clearly, sometimes not so clearly. That's what we discussed earlier. Sri Ramakrishna had these two intuitions. One, that his life, there is a great purpose to be fulfilled. What is the second one? He wanted to had a great attraction for monastic life. And then, as a preparation for this enactment of Sri Ramakrishna's next scene, a great drama is taking place elsewhere. Now we can look back and connect these two. What was that? The birth of Rani Rasmani, the marriage of Rani Rasmani, the death of her husband, and how she got the vision, desire to go to Varanasi to have the vision of Mother Annapurna, and how she started constructing the temple, all as a preparation for whom? For Sri Ramakrishna. And the most dramatic part of it is, this is the dramatic part, when Ramkumar accepted the priesthood of Dakshineshwar, who was the greatest opponent? Sri Ramakrishna. He did not even touch the food for several days. It took Brahmastra for Ramkumar to convince. You know what was the Brahmastra? Sri Ramakrishna had great love for Ganga, respect. Gangavari is Brahmavari. Ganga, Ganges water, is equivalent to Brahman. So Ramkumar's logic went, you take rice and vegetables from the store, cook with the Ganges water and eat. After a few days. That means what? Slowly he was diluting. After a few days, Ramkumar told, look here, the food is prepared by Brahmins. Food is cooked with Ganges water. And food is offered to the Divine Mother and Radha Kanta temple, etc. If you are a devotee of Radha Kanta also, Vishnu also, you can take food. It is only prasada. Only one thing convinced him, that it is all cooked in Ganges water, convinced him. That what the great master says. My reading is that after a few days cooking, he said it is better to eat prasada than every day cooking oneself. He understood. All right. We will discuss this in our next class. This wonderful drama that is going to happen. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.